I'm Julie Bogart, and I have 5 adult kids that I homeschooled for 17 years. Today, they are all grown-ups living all over the world, from San Diego to Bangkok to Sayulita, Mexico, to right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where you will find me. I am originally from California, and during the years that my kids were very young and I was sort of a brand new adult, I worked as a freelance writer and editor. That experience gave me an opportunity to discover how professional writers teach writing, which is amazingly a little different than the way instructors, educators teach writing in the schools. So what we're going to look at today is the core foundation of how Brave Writer, my company, sees the writing project, what role you have as a parent, and exactly what it is about the way professionals see writing that helps your kids become proficient writers. So let's get started right now. I'm going to share my screen so that you are able to see a PowerPoint I've developed just for you. And we will go through it a little bit at a time, looking at the way Brave Writer thinks about the writing experience. All right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we will get started with the webinar. You should still be able to see me up in the corner of your screen so that you will not lose contact with my speaking voice and my face. So here we go. The 3 keys to a complete writing program. You can follow along all the things that I teach by going to Instagram, which I control completely myself. My Instagram account is mine, and you can find me at Julie Brave Writer. And we use the hashtag Brave Writer Lifestyle for all the families who love to implement our products. So if that's something you're looking for, I hope that you will join me over on Instagram, get to know the community, and get all of your questions answered even after this webinar is finished. So here's the thing. Whether you've got 1 child, 3 children, or a dozen kids, almost all of us have at least one reluctant writer. Reluctance in writing is natural. It isn't aberrant. The reason we are reluctant to write is because we are exposing the soul of our humanity. Yes, I know it doesn't seem like it when you're just asking your child to write about Abraham Lincoln. But the truth is, every time we excavate our interiors, we investigate what we think about something, we are risking exposure when we commit it to paper or type it onto a screen. That's why you will notice on Facebook or Twitter, people get very emotional after they've revealed a thought, an opinion, an idea, an experience. Because when we take the risk to expose what we really think, someone else can come back and critique it. So the experience of being reluctant in writing is a universal. Even seasoned professionals like me and authors that you love go through periods of writing block or a feeling of squishiness when they really get next to committing to paper or committing to screen something that is near and dear to their hearts. In the homeschool space, we often treat reluctance in writing as though it means something negative about our children, as though they're doing something wrong. But that's not true. We want to make a big, safe, cozy space for our children. When they show up as reluctant, we want to sidle up next to them and help them feel loved and supported during that crisis of confidence. So who are these reluctant writers? Well, they're definitely your kids, but they were also mine. I had reluctant writers. I had a son with dysgraphia. I had a son with ADHD. I had 2 daughters and another son who did not seem as reluctant to write. And yet there were moments, certain projects, certain assignments that caused them to feel nervous about committing those ideas to the page. So just know this. You're not doing anything wrong if your child exhibits a reluctance to write. So how do we work with that? How do we help our kids gain confidence to take that writing risk? Here's what typically happens when our child writes. We notice the stuff that doesn't work, like these things: inaccurate spelling, missing punctuation, poor grammar, weak phrasing. You know, they start a thought and they don't finish it. They use a sentence fragment. Simplistic sentences. The roller coaster was awesome, with no elaboration. Paltry detail. They say things like, spring is nice. You don't know anything about spring just by saying it's nice. And finally, messy handwriting. And here's what happens. Your child who just took this risk to write is suddenly feeling alienated from trying again, because now they have to keep track of all of these: spelling, punctuation, grammar, phrasing, sentences, detail, and handwriting. And the more they focus on these mechanics of writing, the less in touch they feel with what they want to communicate. It's difficult to think about your ideas related to Abraham Lincoln if you're really busy worried about spelling his name accurately, or remembering to use capital letters, or wondering whether or not you should punctuate with a period or a semicolon. So some of the reluctance on display in your family is that your child is trying to manage their intense thoughts against their still growing mechanical skills. So as they are embarking on the writing life, their verbal fluency far outpaces their mechanical accuracy. Let me say that in simple language. They can think and talk better than they can handwrite, spell, and punctuate. And because of that, when you ask them to commit those thoughts to the page or the screen, some of their brain energy is being siphoned off, trying to remember how to spell, punctuate, and handwrite. And as a result, they only have two choices. They either need to dumb down their thoughts to match the skills they have in the mechanics, or they have to ignore the mechanics and simply chase the fluent, speedy paced thoughts that are racing through their minds. That's why you have reluctance. It's this crash, this collision between their sophisticated, fluent English that exists in their brains versus what they can commit to the page. So here's the stuff we could notice instead. We could choose initially to focus on content and to not worry so much about the mechanics. We could notice flashes of insight, their clever vocabulary that shows up. I remember Katrin got hooked on the word cornucopia for a whole year, and it showed up in all her writing. Maybe surprising detail, like your child knows a lot more about World War II tanks than you ever imagined. How about mastery of the material? You are able to track your child's journey from logging on to the video game all the way through beating level 1. Maybe there is fluidity of thought. Your daughter decided to write about her feelings about spring, and as you are reading, you can experience it along with her. And it doesn't feel like it jumps from point to point, it flows. How about writing voice? That unique sound that is your child, where when you read the words, you're like, oh, that sounds like Susie, or oh my gosh, Jeff has such a great sense of humor. And then finally, personal experience that correlates with whatever the topic is for writing. I had one student who wrote all about trebuchets in the Middle Ages and compared them to four-wheelers. He was taking his present day passion for four-wheeling and using it as an access point to talk about the weapon called a trebuchet. Good writers do all these things, and your kids are doing some of them right now. But those aspects of writing that are good are being drowned out by messy handwriting, poor spelling, and inadequate punctuation. My mission in this conversation about the 3 keys to good writing is to help you start to see how to teach so that the mechanics grow, but we don't undervalue the content while we're waiting for mechanical accuracy. We want our kids to experience themselves as powerful writers even before they know how to spell and punctuate. Why is this so important? Because writing really isn't about the comma. When was the last book you read? You know, maybe mine, you pick it up, you read it, and you get to the end. Do you say to yourself, wow, what a great book, masterful use of commas? That isn't what you say. The commas disappear into the text, supporting the communication. And what you really notice at the end of a book is the way the content stayed with you, stirred you, gave you new vision, inspired you. When we teach the mechanics then, they are a secondary skill to support the robust communication of your child's interior life. And we do teach it, but it is not more important than the self-expression. So here's the truth. Your children are interesting people. In fact, they are so fascinating to you that you've chosen to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with them without a break. And the truth is, you like it that way. You'd put them in school otherwise. The reason this is an important fact is this. All those things you brag about, how adorable your child is, how well they communicated about what was happening out in the backyard because the dog chased the squirrel. You share these little stories with your spouse, with the grandparents, with your friends while you're sitting at the soccer field, and all those little narratives, their anecdotes, the clever things they say to you could be captured in written language. All you have to do is grab a pen, a scratch sheet of paper, and jot them down. As your child gains skill in mechanics, eventually they will jot them down, but they will already know that the thought life is valuable because you will have already demonstrated it by valuing it. Do you see what I mean? Here's the great divide. We ask ourselves this question all the time. What do we prioritize? Accuracy in writing, perfect punctuation, good spelling, beautiful handwriting or typing, or power in writing, effective communication, humor, accurate detail, the feeling of having been moved by the writing? Which one is more important? Naturally, for a finished product, we think they're both important. But I would like to suggest to you that when we make the accuracy of the mechanics the first thing we notice and the most important feature of the writing, we lose power in writing. Your child's content suffers. And what Brave Writer does is we flip the script. We prioritize the content first. We help it become rich, detailed, expanded, nourished, and then we come in from behind and fix all the mechanics. Let's see how we do that. So I like to use a model that I call the writing triangle. When your kids are young, they have the possibility of communicating fully and with detail in speech. By the time they are 5 years old, they are fluent native speakers in whatever language they were raised in. And that fluency is not matched by their handwriting skills. In fact, age 5, 6, 7, 8, that's when most kids are learning to read, and they're managing a pencil for the first time in their lives. During that period of time when they are learning to handwrite and read, their own imaginations and capacity for talking is just flourishing like the Renaissance era. Meanwhile, handwriting and spelling stuck in the Middle Ages, right? What we want to do then at the beginning of the writing life is recognize that original thought and the mechanics of writing are as far apart as they are ever going to be. Original thought is fluent, cogent, detailed, clever, funny, rich, interesting, fascinating at age 5. Mechanics, they are sparse, they are inaccurate, they are poorly executed, they can't remember how to spell, they don't know which way the D and the B go when they're filling out one of their pages of handwriting letters. The mechanics of writing then are at their very beginning. You know, when they first started talking, they were like ba 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 ba, ma 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 ma. That's how the mechanics are at 5, 6, 7, and 8 in writing. It's a bunch of little squiggles and letters that don't quite make sense. During the writing life then, it is important to separate these two, to prioritize the content and jot it down for your children, while simultaneously using someone else's writing, you teach the mechanics. So what we do in Brave Writer is we use living literature, that wonderful Charlotte Mason phrase, to teach the mechanics. So you might read a book with your kids, you know, you might read a poem to your children, and then you're going to handwrite it and let them trace over it. You might take a passage from Laura Ingalls Wilder and write that out, and then your child copies directly underneath. You're using someone else's words to teach the mechanics of writing. Meanwhile, on the other side, this original thought that's bubbling up through speech, you're grabbing a spare sheet of paper and jotting it down, and then reading it back at the dinner table. Now, at the base of the triangle then is a child between the ages of 5 and 8. Over time, as your child gets older, they are going to bring original thought and the mechanics of writing together until they reach 18, and they are now at the stage of writing proficiency. That means ready to go to college. So how do we get original thought and mechanics together so that they are functioning in the same human being simultaneously? Through parental involvement. You are the triangle. You could write that down. I am the triangle. You make up the distance from original thought to mechanics in a decreasing role over the lifespan of your child. Now, during the earliest years, you're doing all the transcribing. As your child gets older, you are partnering in new ways. Your child might write one sentence and you write one sentence. You might jot down their words and then they copy it. You might discover that your child is ready for you to just hand them a set of notes. Or maybe by high school, they're doing a draft and you're coming in afterwards to offer editorial changes. Your role will change throughout the writing life, but over time, your child will be able to type or handwrite their own thoughts. And by the time they leave for college, they'll be ready to do it all on their own. What kinds of writing activities do they do that combine original thought and bring the mechanics together? Writing projects that are developmentally scaled to where your child is in the writing process. And that's how Brave Writer divides up its products. We have products that focus on original thought, products that bring the mechanics out through using living literature, and then products that tie mechanics and thought together in a writing assignment, what we call writing projects. So let's take a closer look now at how all that works. The first piece of the puzzle then is original writing, what we call our coaching manuals. And the core manual that we have is called the Writer's Jungle. Now, the Writer's Jungle is available through us in a digital format that you can then have printed. We've retired the print format, but this is what the binder looked like. It is a coaching guide for you, the parent. So you're going to read each chapter and then implement whatever activity is in that chapter. You do not have to read the whole thing before you get started. Each chapter is designed to change how you think about the writing process. It is meant to help you understand how to focus on the content while simultaneously growing the skills and mechanics. We teach you a whole bunch of processes like keen observation of detail, free writing, topic selection, revision, how to edit a paper. All of that is comprehensively taught in the Writer's Jungle. It helps you build a parent-child partnership in writing. The second product that focuses on original writing is Help for High School. This product is designed for your high schooler directly. In other words, your student can read Help for High School and implement all the activities directly. It's a self-guided exploration of writing. The first half of the book focuses on process, on the original thought life of your teenager, helping them deep dive into the kind of rhetorical thinking they'll need for essay writing. The second half of the book focuses on how to write essays. So the first part of the triangle is original writing. The second part of the triangle is mechanics and literature. And these are taught by our 5 guides. We have the wand, that is for your youngest children, 5 to 8, learning how to read. We have the quiver of arrows for 1st and 2nd grade. We have the arrow for 3rd through 6th, the pouch of boomerangs for middle school, and then the boomerang for high school, 8th through about 10th or 11th grade. Let's take a closer look at each one. The wand teaches reading and writing. So if you have a child who can read hop on pop, they are ready for the wand. It does not teach phonics like the letter D makes the D sound. That's not what it does. It builds on basic sound to letter correspondence and takes your kids the rest of the way. The books that are in the wand are early readers and picture books. And we use these simple, captivating books to help your kids grow both in the mechanics of writing and learning to read. The quiver of arrows is based on this delightful set of books: Winnie the Pooh, Cricket in Times Square, The Wheel on the School, Mr. Popper's Penguins, Secret of the Andes, Young Fu of the Upper Yangtze, Charlotte's Web, The Mouse and the Motorcycle, The Trumpet of the Swan, and Sarah Plain and Tall. These books are standards, they are classics. Those adorable bookends are from my childhood, from my own mother. And these books represent a collection that you will work through over the course of a 10-month year. Each month includes detailed lessons that help you implement teaching the mechanics, spelling, handwriting, punctuation, with enjoying quality read alouds. You will read these books to your children. We also look at literary devices and some very easy to implement writing activities. The arrow is the same kind of product, but it is for grades 3 to 6. And these are the books that we are looking through, learning from this year in Brave Writer. So we have Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, The Wild Robot, Mercy Suarez Changes Gears, Artemis Fowl, The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street, Pie, Stella by Starlight, Book Scavenger, Bronze and Sunflower, and The Boy Who Saved Baseball. Each month you will read one of these books and then be introduced to copywork and dictation passages that will help your kids grow in the mechanics of writing. For middle school, we have something we call the pouch of boomerangs. This is for 6th to 8th graders. They include what we call think piece questions. These are discussion questions that you will go through with your children so that they have the joy of exploring the book in more detail. These themes are appropriate to junior high, and in all our products, except this one, we have party school guides, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I just need you to know the pouch does not quite have them yet. Finally, this year's boomerang collection for 8th to 11th grades. The boomerang is like the arrow, but it is designed for these older students. The Hobbit, Stargirl, The Red Umbrella, A Wizard of Earthsea, Little Women, A Separate Piece, Unbound, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Night Diary, and The Wednesday Wars. These books offer your teens the opportunity to dig deep into literature, to begin to have a diverse perspective, and to get their arms around what it means to do literary analysis. All of our guides are written with you and the child in mind. They're activities and detailed conversation points for you to have with your kids. It's truly a hand-holding experience. For all those guides this year, we are including some skills trackers and a planning tool so that you will be able to have some control over how you integrate these into the rest of your homeschool experience. Our final collection, which we hardly ever get to talk about, is the Early English collection, what we say from the mead hall to the drawing room. This includes things like Beowulf, Canterbury Tales, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. If you are looking for British literature for high school, definitely get our Boomerang Early English collection. It does all that for you. It gives you detailed information about each of the books and then provides you with the mechanics and the think piece questions that go with them all. Our last and third part then of these 3 keys to a complete writing program are writing projects for every age and stage of development. The first level is called Jot It Down for 5 to 8-year-olds, and it focuses on 10 month-long writing projects. What that means is you will do 1 project per month. Are you breathing easier yet? I always like finding out from parents that they are relieved to find out they don't have to produce original writing every day of the year forever and amen. Rather, you will do 1 project per month, some oral language games, some recommendations around art and poetry and music, all to create this complete writing lifestyle that supports the original thought and the mechanics that you are growing simultaneously. Jot It Down is our most popular program. You cannot go wrong with this one. So I highly recommend it if you're new to Brave Writer or new to homeschooling and have young children. Partnership writing is the next level up. This one starts with secret codes. So if you have one of those reluctant writers in this age range, anywhere from 9 to 10, little older, little younger, depending on your kids, this program allows you to invite your kids in through things like lap books, homonym books, secret codes, designing your own map of a continent or an island chain. All of our projects are scaled to the developmental stage of your child. Faltering ownership then is the next level. This is usually for kids who are late junior high, early high school, so like maybe 8th and 9th grade. In it, you will see things like interviewing someone who has survived a natural disaster, comparing headlines on newspaper articles so that you get a sense of rhetoric and point of view. We also teach you how to do an elementary school or junior high level report, the junior high level report, simultaneously preparing a party for friends on the same topic. It is such a robust product. There are 12 writing projects in here, and it could easily span 2 years worth of activity. So I highly recommend Faltering Ownership. So to review, we have original writing, we have mechanics and literature, and we have these writing projects. If you'll recall, I mentioned Help for High School in original writing. That's because the first half of the program is all about the mind life, but the second half is writing projects for your child. So a complete program for high school might be the Boomerang and Help for High School. And now for this next year, you'll have enough activities both in mechanics and literature and in original thought and writing projects to complete the whole experience. If you aren't quite ready yet to purchase, you might like downloading our free 7-day writing blitz. All you have to do is go to bravewriter.com and you will have 7 days of writing lessons. You can do them all in a row. You can break them up over a couple of weeks. We would love you to get familiar with Brave Writer by trying 7 of our favorite activities, totally free. And then, like I said before, follow me on Facebook, Instagram. We are excited to make ourselves available to you in any way possible so that you and I and Brave Writer can get to know each other. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you have found this to be a valuable experience. But thank you for being here today. The bottom line is this. You need something for original thought, you need something for mechanics, and you need writing projects that bring together those levels. So let's say you have a 5 to 8-year-old. Jot it down, plus the wand or quiver of arrows will be a complete program for you. If you have kids who are 9 to 10, you'll want the Writer's Jungle for original writing. You will want mechanics from either the quiver of arrows or the arrow, and that includes your reading for the year. And then partnership writing, which are the writing projects that take advantage of the original writing process and the mechanics you're learning in partnership writing. So always think about those 3 components when you're putting it all together. Now, your question is, can I use your program to teach spelling for my 10-year-old son? Yes, that is correct. So if you are teaching a 10-year-old, you will want to use our Arrow program. That's where we do copy, work, and dictation that grow your child as a speller. What age do you expect a child to become a proficient writer? 18. Now, I know that's disturbing. You're thinking 13, 14, 15. Well, sure, they're going to know how to handwrite and spell and punctuate. They'll be able to draft something, but you are vital to the process. Do you understand that even me, the person who's written books, I work with editors. I have people look at my work. No writer is merely a solo operation. So your job as a parent who homeschools or who partners with a child in school is to support the writing process all the way up through their lives. And your role will change, the scale of input will change, but writing proficiency comes when they leave your house and now need to rely on outside sources to support them, like their composition teacher, or the writing lab, or their roommate who just read through their paper to make sure they didn't make any typos. Does that make sense? If you have a child in the partnership writing stage and 2 children in faltering ownership, what do you recommend combining in that homeschool setting? What we recommend a lot is purchase both programs, but alternate which month you use them. So maybe 1 month you do partnership writing with everyone or whoever it fits for, and then use faltering ownership the next month for whoever it fits for. Your kids will all be fine using that model. So just alternate months, because you can't do it all at once. But by doing that, you stay engaged and your kids have the opportunity to sort of be exposed to both levels. And the ones who can perform at the level you're teaching are the ones who will participate, and they'll get a perfectly adequate education. What do you recommend for asynchronous learners? I have a 9.5-year-old who is a fabulous reader, but struggling writer. Even a short sentence of copywork is hard for him. I would go for the jot it down experience, and then I would change how you're supporting the handwriting piece. So right now, your child needs to trace your writing or use a highlighter to go over your writing, or to write inside your highlighter, or you have it written beautifully and he literally is doing letter-to-letter correspondence on the page. What I've noticed is that most kids struggle with the responsibility to reproduce fluently. And so when they're struggling with that, we typically don't remember to scale back the expectation. But if you do and you meet him where he is, he'll make much faster progress. Jot It Down would be a fabulous program for him, but you could also use partnership writing and just provide Jot It Down style support where you are transcribing on his behalf. Can Help for High School be used with an 8th grader? I still don't feel like I quite understand the difference between original thought and writing projects. Great question. Original thought is about process. So think of it this way. If I said to you, let's write about the Civil War, you might be able to think a whole bunch of thoughts about the Civil War, but they're not organized. You don't know which aspect you want to focus on. You don't know how to take this massive topic called the Civil War and turn it into a 5-paragraph paper or a lap book. Writing process is about those original thoughts as they unspool in all their disorganization. Just allowing things to come forth, identifying and noting which aspects of the topic you know well and which will require more research. A writing project then takes all that original writing, all those thoughts, all that randomness, and starts to funnel it into a shape, whether that's a 5-paragraph essay or a lap book or a poem. So writing projects are the format, and original thought is the process. Does that help? I hope that helps. So yes, Help for High School can be used with an 8th grader. That said, if your 8th grader has not done a lot of writing, starting with the Writer's Jungle is better. Now, I've shared with you about all of our products, but we also have online writing classes, and we teach all the levels in our online classes. So the Writer's Jungle Online, Expository Essay for High School, Write for Fun for young kids, Write Your Own Greek Myth. We have so many choices. If you are looking for support and someone to model the program to you, then taking a class is the way to go. You can certainly use both. Use a product during the school year, but take a break for 3 to 6 weeks to do a class and really get into the slipstream of how we bring this writing triangle to life in your family. The Writer's Jungle Online is our class that teaches the Writer's Jungle. And it is by far, hands down, the most transforming of all of our classes. So if you're panicky, you've got a slew of reluctant writers, you're not sure you know how to do all this, sign up for that class, and I promise you, all will clarify and you will enter the school year with so much confidence around teaching your kids to write, because that's what it does really well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I really love the opportunity to share with you about Brave Writer. And if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to us by going to our helpline, help@bravewriter.com. That's our email address. We have trained staff ready to help you. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. Bye, everybody.